Hello and welcome back to Factorio C Block. In the last episode, we rebuilt all of this crushing and sorting and new smelting to accommodate a couple of new recipes, and that episode was very long, and so I didn't get to quite fit into it everything I wanted to do. I probably should have broken it up at some point in the middle, but there also wasn't a very logical spot to break it up, because it was either completely torn apart or on its way to being done. So I just wanted to take an episode, kind of take a breath a little bit, and talk about where we're at, where we're going, and some of the things that I had to fix off camera that I had messed up. First of all, was a pipe missing here, so this was not working. This may not need to work. I may not need both of these all the time, but it is kind of what it is. I did tweak a few of the box sizes in a few of the places, just to accommodate a little bit more stuff in some cases. I did fix at some point, it might have been on camera though, I did fix, of course it just got dark, I did fix the Jivolite. I don't think it was outputting properly, but I think I did that on camera. So this is a little more balanced now, and actually Rubyite's the problem. But also, if you have been watching the Factorio Friday Facts blogs every week, you'll know that last Friday's was about the fluid system, especially the fluid system that's coming in 2.0. And that'll actually fix the problem we're having here, which is, for some reason, and it seems to be dependent upon entity placement, whether it's pipe placement or machine placement or both, the fluids tend to prefer certain machines over others, or certain pipes over others, or certain whatever over the other things. So the Rubyite right now is struggling, while the Jivolite and Sapphirite. I always forget which one's which, because they're both blue. So the Jivolite and Sapphirite are both doing just fine, and actually these ones are backed up over here. They won't back up fully until they're at 200, but they're backing up. So Rubyite and Bobmonium are both holding us back a little bit, although we don't really need more Bobmonium. Because we're kind of stuck on that front as well a little bit here. But it still can do a little bit more crafting and things. I also adjusted some of the priority inputs for the splitters. We're taking priority from this down here. The reason I'm doing that is so that steel can continue to be made here. And then we're taking priority for the tin from this one, so that if this copper is not backed up and this one's trying to dump copper into here, then the tin can be used from here as well to keep the copper flowing, and then we make more tin to make more either tin plate or bronze plate. And then when that's good, then we can make the Bobmonium into tin, which leads to also the silicon that we need to turn into glass, possibly, at some point. Eventually, maybe. Not so much worried about that. And then, of course, Rubyite. I would much rather Rubyite get forced over here into the ferrous mixture, so that we can make that into the iron and manganese, which gives us the best option for iron, rather than getting put into making more lead that we don't need and nickel that we don't even know how to use yet. Same thing kind of goes here with Bobmonium. I want it going into the cupric mixture first, because that makes tin, and we don't really have a use for silicon or glass at this point. We have enough of it that I'm okay with when we hit the need. I'm probably okay with what'll happen then. Also, these here do not crush out to slag. This one and this one up here do not. So technically I didn't need their joining the belt like this. I'm leaving it in place simply because if I decide to change my mind later on this recipe, I can do it a little bit easier if I have that there and don't forget that it needs to be put back. One of the other things that I noticed that was going on here was we were out of crushed rock getting fed into here, partially because we were stealing it for bricks and stone, but also because we weren't producing enough mineralized water. We weren't getting enough to produce enough mineralized water. As you can see here, I had to put a crusher back in so that we could crush some of the slag back into mineralized water. And you can see that this is not buffering hardly at all. I do have two 90 degrees on this, and a 90 degree and a 180 degree on this, so this is getting a little bit more priority usage. I could take off one or the other of these later if this starts backing up to kind of rebalance the usage. But we were using so much of this, or we weren't making enough of this stuff, and we need so much of it to produce enough fuel to the point where this box had gotten down to just a few hundred left before it started going back up, like 400, maybe 500 left. And so, I should probably give you back some of this. And so we've already regained, well, 600-700 at that point, and then I just dumped 200 more in there from somewhere. I don't know where I got it from. But that'll go in there, and now we have a little bit more stable power because we're obviously producing more than we're using. If you recall correctly, we did the math on how much power we're making here out of this. It's in this calculation here, I think. And it's 4.09, actually 3.456, because we are using some of this to feed back into this loop, times 4 megajoules, which is 14 or 13.8, I think, or something like that. Don't check my math on that too hard, but we are using more and more of it for other things. So you've got a line coming up here being fed in for filtering this, and we've got this line going up here that's feeding these all for their burning, and manganese also for the actual recipe itself. So there's a lot of this being used, or potentially being used, that we weren't accounting for when we did the math on this. So that 13.8, as far as how much power we can produce, is actually not quite correct, which is why I want to keep this down near 11 or 12, just to be safe. And we're kind of getting close to that, to the point where we might have to add another build of this, and I probably will duplicate this whole thing at that point. And then, which means we can also handle more steam engines as well. But we'll see how that goes in the near future. And I probably would do that off camera, because you don't really need to see me duplicate this again. And then from that, we have a few more other things I wanted to talk about that's kind of, maintenance-y, catch-up, whatever-y wise. The next one is, I never showed the proof of this recipe using the manganese for iron plate. So I have the old one that we were doing here with just the saphirite. And that uses 75 mineral sludge, which is derived from 7.5 total slag. And remember, we were getting some fed back, so 6 total slag, which is 24 electrolyzers. But also remember, we don't have that many electrolyzers. We only have 21, and some percentage of what they produce is going into this process down here. Small percentage, but some percentage of it is going into this process down here. So we aren't getting all of that back, or aren't using all of that anyways for this process. But if we were using 24 electrolyzers worth of this, that would produce 75 mineral sludge down the line, 3 liquefiers, and 4 filtration units, which is what we have. And that would give us 1.5 iron plates and 0.75 copper plates per second. And remember, of course, we aren't doing just that. We're doing these other things too. But if we had only fed that, and the logic kind of holds still anyway, if you look at this other copper recipe here, which uses the same amount of slurry here, or sludge here, which is 75, and it ends up with 3 total iron plates, which is, well, what is that? 33% more total plates. Now, of course, again, this is if you're only doing iron, but I also worked up the copper one here, or rather the cupric mixture one here, which also, if you take it from 75, you produce 1.5 copper and 1.5 tin. So the idea of the way that I have built this is that in the end, hopefully, these will auto-rebalance themselves depending on usage, and we won't have, it'll produce what it needs to produce to maintain the supply out here to the belts with all of the metals on them. I don't know if that's going to actually happen practically, and eventually we'll want to produce a lot more slag and a lot more of the mineral sludge and a lot more of this going on. But right now, because the electrolyzers are so expensive power-wise, it's just not really feasible. I mean, they use 7.5 megawatts for 24 of them. I guess, well, that's 300. No, that's 1.3 megawatts each. No, that's not right. 1.3. I'm a little confused. Let's go down there and look at them. Actually, we don't have to go down there. 310 kilowatts each. Okay. I don't know what that 1.3 means. But anyways, 310 kilowatts each. And so there's just too much power draw. If we look at our total power draw here, electrolyzers are 50% of our power usage right now. 6.5 out of 13, basically. So that's a problem right now. And it's only going to get worse if I try to add more. So I don't want to add more at this point. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. Unless we add more power production, which means, of course, we need more electrolyzers to support it. This is a very power positive production loop here, so it's not a big deal, but it's a deal, and we need to keep that in mind because with C-Block, it's a disaster if you run out of something that you're relying on. So we have to be very careful on the balancing of things and also the maintenance of everything. And I'm hoping we get to an improvement to something in this process before too long. And that leads me to the next thing that I wanted to do, which is go into the tech tree. We've pretty much set up everything we've unlocked so far. I mean, we did unlock this nitrogen processing, which I don't think we've used, but it's kind of a intermediary type of thing. We'll use it eventually. But I think everything else we've unlocked, we've used, or at least in theory used, or at least in part used, I guess. Maybe it's better than in theory. But we also haven't unlocked all that many things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus a few extras. We'll call this less than 40 technologies that we've unlocked. And with the next array of technologies is kind of interesting, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it. We have bronze processing, which gives us bronze pipes. That's all it gives us, and so I'm just going to go ahead and research that. You all don't need to see that and how that works. I'll show it briefly, but we don't need to spend time on it. And we'll just show it briefly in a future episode. But also with steel, the same kind of thing. There are steel pipes, but there's also steel chests finally. And then there's steel gears, steel bearing balls, and steel bearings, as well as more wind turbines. So we can actually expand our green power as well as our not so green power. So I think I want to do this one as well, and we'll probably take a look at this at least a little bit in a future episode. But I want to just unlock both of those because these pipes, both you can see this one and this one have the 2 dots, and what that basically means is they have more health and they have a little more range on the undergrounds. But other than that, I don't see a difference. This is a max length of 15. The other ones are 10 or 11 or something. The ones we have now, all 3 of the ones we have now. So there used to be a capacity difference, like what the throughput of the pipes were in Bob's, but that doesn't exist anymore. So we're going to kind of leave that behind, I think. We can also then do Steel Axe, which just increases our character mining speed. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the queue. And then the next Steel Axe 2 requires green science. We haven't gotten there yet. So that leaves us with, other than this one, which is also kind of a fluff one, specifically this allows you to make large silos that have stylized colors based on what material you mix them with, or you can just do the plain ones. They're just big storage silos with 256 slots. I'm not going to research those yet, but we'll use those later once we start doing bigger things. Right now, we don't have that kind of production that we need, that kind of capacity. So the last 2 technologies we have here that are available to us now are electronics, which unlocks the ability for me to make the additional companion robots. We're not going to really make a whole bunch of those at this point, partially because we don't have the electronic circuits or the Factorian fish. Interesting. But we'll make a couple more of them eventually as we start doing bigger builds. But also it unlocks basic electronic components, electronic circuit boards, and electronic circuits, filter inserters, finally, and tinned copper wire. And I think that's all the rest of the recycle recipes that we're not even using at this point to break the things down into their into their base components again, or to their ingredients, or input ingredients again. So this will lead us to green circuits. These items are used to make green circuits, tinned wire, and basic electronic components. And then, so I think we're gonna work on green circuits maybe in the next episode. The alternative to that is going to be, and I'm going to actually research this. The alternative to that is going to be cement processing, which leads us to clay bricks. But clay bricks aren't used yet either. We'll have to get into the garden processing and farming in order to use those, as well as maybe some of these other things. But everything that uses clay bricks, almost everything uses clay bricks, is in green science. So I don't know that I want to do clay bricks yet, but I'm also going to go ahead and add that to the research queue, just so that we unlock it, because I will probably do that and this, and then maybe get toward the green science unlocks pretty soon, because we're kind of getting close to the end of what's available in just red science, as you can see here. So I'm going to leave these things I'm going to let these things research that are here in the queue. There's 5 of them in the queue. And when we start the next episode, those will be ready to go, and we'll probably do green circuits first, and then the clay bricks. I'm just kind of thinking about what else there might be to kind of cover and update you all on, and kind of give like count this episode as kind of like almost like a reset or a recap of what's been going on. You can see there's a little bit of weirdness with sorting and things, but I think we're kind of to the point now where we can where we're kind of reaching the end. I mean, we're getting near the end of red science solo stuff, so we're kind of reaching the end of an era in the game, and it's just about time to kind of step into a new era, I think. And so we're gonna have a whole host of additional stuff to do. Of course, it's still in the beginning. This is still the beginning because it's still just red science. But there's a whole host of things we need to do, and I'm hoping, like I said, we get to some better power production, power usage types of things here at some point. But at this point, I think we should just we just needed a little bit of a reset. Plus, it fit really well with my schedule this week as well. So I hope this was interesting to you. That you appreciate this type of episode. I won't do them very often, but every so often we should probably do something like this just to talk about different things. I've already done 2 of those 5 researches, by the way. And then, I've had a few comments about, things that I've missed. By all means, keep those coming. So far, I think pretty much everything that I've missed, I've caught on my own before I read the comment, i.e. this pipe and maybe one of these belts was turned wrong or something along the way. I can't remember now, but I found them all, I think, so far, but that doesn't mean that I will always continue finding them all. So let me know if there are additional things that I've missed so that I can make sure that we get everything going correctly in the future and keep everything working as it should. But until then, I think we'll leave this here, and in the next episode we'll get back to working on the green circuits, and then the clay bricks, and then I think probably after that green science, possibly the garden processing and farming. I honestly haven't looked at that yet on my own, so I don't know what that's going to entail, but maybe that'll be the next thing before green science gets unlocked. We'll see. So thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.